Alright, today I'm going to walk through with you how we support data security in the Incorta data application for GD AdWords. We are talking about different things: user authentication and user authorization. User authentication determines if user can access to Incorta. User authorization determines what a user can view or what a user can do within Incorta. That includes object security and row-level security. The first thing I want to talk about is user authentication. Integrating Incorta user authentication with GD AdWords ensures that users can employ the same credentials as they do in GD AdWords, thereby eliminating the need to remember multiple passwords. If single sign-on is enabled in the same browser session, a user already logged into GD AdWords doesn't need to relog to Incorta. That's the beauty of a single sign-on, right? The way we achieve this level of security integration is by utilizing the diverse authentication methods supported by Incorta. Incorta allows users to choose from various authentication tabs. Synchronizing users is necessary if you plan to integrate Incorta with GD AdWords for security purposes. Incorta uses groups and sharing objects with groups or users to determine what a user can do. Integrating data security with GD AdWords allows users to use the rules defined in GD AdWords to grant access and permissions. For example, a user, a sales manager, and the GDE application already has a group for a sales manager. The user, the groups, and the user as a member of the groups can be synced or replicated into Incorta. GD AdWords use the table F0092 to store users and the groups, and use F95921 to store membership information. The next thing I'm going to talk about is object security. By default, when an object such as a dashboard or folder will only be accessible by its owner, object security enables an object to be accessible by other users in addition to the owner. So for integrating object security with GD AdWords, we assume that those groups can be created and maintained within the GDE application. Those groups can be automatically created in Incorta from the GDE data application using directly sync, as we described earlier. Since folders and the dashboards are created by the development team, the sharing will have to be done within Incorta. However, we don't recommend sharing directly with the user. We assume that a schema and a dashboard will be shared with groups, and the user will get a permission by being a member of the group. Here is an example. The scenario is a sales manager. The assumption is that the sales manager is a role defined in GDE. The users who are sales managers are defined in GDE, and the dashboards are shared with a sales manager group in Incorta. Here are the implementation steps. So for these 3 steps, if the directly sync is enabled, we don't need to maintain it in Incorta manually. We don't need to use Incorta UI to create user groups and assign users to groups. And the first step is create users, then create groups, add a user to group, add a row to group. Then finally is share the dashboard access to the group. Finally, I'm going to talk about row-level security. Row-level security is data filters that will eliminate the rows from users. Now let's explore role-based security by division. This ensures users in Incorta only see data relevant to them. For example, a sales manager will use data for their region only. We achieve this with the data security filters using division as our security attribute. This attribute stamps data to control access, like securing financial data with a business view. Stamping can be direct or indirect. For instance, sales data is stamped on the related customer record. Users are given access to specific divisions, and Incorta can only query data from these divisions. Let's discuss Incorta row-level security before diving into GDE integration. Row-level security means that different users see different data on the dashboard based on their access. This is accomplished through Incorta's runtime security filters applied to tables containing sensitive information. Though the filter, which resembles a condition, doesn't necessarily use an attribute directly from the table. It can also use attributes from parent tables, a user permissions list, the division list. For example, define this filter. This list stores in a session variable gets established when a user logs in. When a user views a dashboard, Incorta checks the dashboard lineage to identify access tables and applies the security filter using the variable value. This is how row-level security operates in Incorta. We create users through direct sync, and the key for GDE integration is to determine user access. For instance, the relationship between a user and division. As the GDE already maintains this information, there's no need for duplication in Incorta. We have several key columns here in security workbench table F00950. The security workbench table is a table that holds green information about the data set, about the greens to the user or row of the different data set defined by securing attribute. So firstly, the column user indicates who the data is granted to, which may be a user or a row. Note that rows in GDE can comprise multiple users. For instance, we created user 310 and user 320 in our example. Next, we have a security tab. This table is a multi-purposes. In its records not only data security but also navigational accessibilities, permissible user actions, and available functions. GDE uses a single table to handle all these different tabs of security grants. For our purposes, we are focused on row security. The column label table indicates the table that is being secured. For our example, we are securing the address book F0101, which serves the customer master in GDE. The data item column denotes the specific item that is in data security within this table. In GDE, there are category codes, user-defined codes with multiple purposes, including data recording and additional information capture for data security. In our case, these columns store the divisions. So lastly, we have two columns, from value and through value, for granting information. In our table, a user like a user 310 is granted access to two divisions defined using a branch. GDE provides a user interface allowing admin users to allocate different object instances to a user, thus defining the contents of the security workbench table. So here are the key columns I mentioned. For the implementation steps, we include the 4 steps: load table, create MV, create session variable, and create runtime security. So let me go to environment, give you a quick demo. So here is our environment. You can see here, the implementation process starts with loading the security workbench table F00950. This table stores grant information about different datasets defined by the security attribute and specify which user or role has access to them. So in this example, we are using the simple data we define in a spreadsheet. Because we have no UI for entering GDE, so this is just trying to simulate. This F00950 table allows us to define the data in a range, but when Incorta queries the data to get the object instance, get the value that the user has access to, it is difficult to generate that range dynamically. So instead, what we did is we create a materialized view for this purpose. So here is the logic. The logic is very simple, right? It's use a security workbench table. We flatten the range by drawing this branch to whatever the table. So in this case, it will be F0101. Join this table to make the value that falls to this range into individual value in this column. This building a table with the user and the object instance. The user can access it directly using the materialized view. The next thing is that in Incorta, use a session variable to build a context to which the user has access. So for example here, when a user logs in an Incorta system, we will query that table. That table already builds the user and object instance relationship. We use this user session variable to query that table to get a list of the object instance that the user has access to. Then what happens is that after user login, the session variable will build the security context, and then Incorta use the runtime security filter. So in this case, the address master is equal to division list. The one is created on the data that need to be secure. F4211 is a sales order detail table. Sales order detail joins to address master. The address master has this attribute division, and data is secured by the division, which users can access to. Now let me log into different users to show you. Let me log into the user 310. This is a user sales manager. So when he goes to the sales secure dashboard. So he will see the data relevant to his division. His division is a 310, right? You can see that the user can see all these division data 310 as a display 321 rows. And let me log into another user 320. So you can see this user 320, you can only see the division 320. And I have 411 sales orders. And another user 300 all we created. That user can see all the data. You can see here, this user can see all the data. This is a quick demo about how we support the data security in Incorta data application for GD AdWords. Thank you.